The next person who will come up here is an engineer, or was an engineer. I'm not sure if he considered he's still an engineer. He turned to dancing. So he has a fascinating story, and would love for you to hear it. And his name is Chinarut Rongchobe.
Okay, I'm an American-born Thai, and I was raised in the East Coast. I was born in New York City and raised in New Jersey. And as Henry said, yes, I did get an engineering degree at Carnegie Mellon in computer engineering. And so I think one of the things that I realized that one of the best things that I did in my life as an engineer was actually take the time to actually go to Thailand and actually commit to be in Thailand for 4 years without leaving the country. And I think one of the things that I discovered was actually I had an opportunity to not only explore my roots, but I think I had the unexpected result of actually, the impact of actually sharing your passion and what I had developed in my American upbringing in Thailand, and that's what this story is about. So, set the record straight, just in regards to being an engineer. I mean, I love technology, and I think it really started because my dad, when I was 8 years old, just handed me a computer. I never asked for it. He just literally just handed it to me, and just like any other 8-year-old, you just think it's probably just a toy. So it became my best friend really quickly, and I learned how to use it, and that was before the internet. So all you could do is just play with it and make the computer do things. You know, you weren't interacting with people all over the world or anything like that. And so you can imagine, you know, as an 8-year-old who relates to computers as a toy, my entire life has all been about playing with technology. And, you know, there's so many technologies out there. There's all kinds of gadgets from the iPhone to the iPad and to like 5 million different websites. And so that's all it is for me. You know, you can imagine a little kid, you know, when you get bored of it, you put it down and you go play with something else, and then you play with that for a little while, and then when you get bored of that, you go somewhere else. And so technology has always been fun for me. And so I think it's because of that kind of play with technology that I naturally became interested in engineering. And I eventually ended up working at Intel to actually work on the Pentium 2 at the time. And so I was at Intel, and I think because Intel's over in Silicon Valley on the West Coast, it was my first time in California, you got to make new friends. And so one of the unique things about Intel is that they had a new hire network. And you basically had a kind of a club inside Intel to kind of meet new friends. Now, for some reason, I don't know why, this club was like all Asian. so I guess it was. I guess we all wanted to like meet each other. And so one of the things that really happened was that a lot of the Asian women that were there wanted to learn social dancing, like ballroom dancing, like cha-cha. And they needed guys. They pretty much dragged us all to go to all the ballroom dance lessons. We were amongst a lot of elderly people, and you know, we had no idea what we were doing, but come on, we were young, and we figured, you know, why not? Now, one night, we were actually brought to go to salsa dancing, and that's actually when I started to realize that's when I really liked to dance. And I really liked the teacher. His name was Alex at the time, up in Mountain View. He's actually he actually came down to LA like 10, 20 years later to become a world famous salsa teacher and dancer. And yeah, that's when I found an affinity and a love for partner dancing, and that spirit had always stayed with me. Now, the corollary of all this is that there was something at Intel called the Graduate Rotation Engineering Program. And these were like all the smart people that Intel had hired and had planned for them to be like future managers. And for some reason, most of the people in there were not Asian, but they always related to me as like I was part of the group, and I had no idea why. So I hung out with them a lot, and they were the types to kind of play hard, you know, kind of work hard and play hard. And so it wasn't too long since I started partying with them and started going to dancing and things like that. And then I started, I found like, a lot of electronic dancing, raves and things like that. And I just found, it was really interesting to just kind of get related more to yourself and, have this freedom to just kind of dance, to kind of music and not do any partner dancing. So it became a very interesting complement. And so one of the interesting things is after I left Intel, I moved to San Francisco. And I think one of the coolest experiences that I encountered was actually a Wednesday night happy hour, a dancing happy hour. You could just imagine like after work at 6 o'clock, everybody in this art gallery is dancing, like going crazy. And it was a really neat experience. People would dance for 3 hours straight until like 9 o'clock. And you just got to go home and, you get up the next morning and go to work. and I'm like, what a novel idea. And I think that was the beginning of when I started to realize that I'm not into this whole late night culture and staying up till like 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning to dance. No, there's something really inherently healthy about, just dancing at like 6 o'clock, after work. Just get your dance fixed that way. So my point being is that I think this is a kind of a piece of American culture that I started to really appreciate. It was something really creative in the way Americans actually play around with socializing. So I'm trying to connect the dots as an engineer, and I'm realizing as an engineer I'm into building things. And so it wasn't too long until I took a seminar and I realized that I really love community and I really want to build a dance community one day. And I became really committed to just like wanting all of us to just build something bigger than ourselves. And so then there was this opportunity that came to actually just go to Thailand, and I decided to just like pack my bags in 2 weeks and just take off. And so that's when my 4-year mission to be in Thailand started. And so I really had a profound opportunity to really just be in Thailand and just be myself. And because of the cost of living is such radically different there than it is here, I realized that I was able to just volunteer and just do anything I wanted. I mean, it was like a dream come true. You could do anything you wanted, anytime you wanted, and if people wanted to give you money for it, they gave you money. If they didn't give you money, that was great too. And so I was able to really do that for 4 years and even support my partner at the time. And so I just shared whatever I loved about America or whatever I saw in Thailand, and next thing I know, someone had invited me to they like tapped me on the shoulder, and in California we had played around with these dance workshops. We met this gentleman who said, I can't dance anymore because everybody laughs at me when I dance. And we're like, come on, it's not that bad, is it? So, we're like, okay, we asked him to dance, and then he's like hopping around. He's like schizophrenic or something. We're like, wow. We're like, we've never seen anybody dance that badly. So we busted out a laptop, we put some music on, and in about 5-10 minutes, we just coached him through like some basic movement. And within like 15 minutes, he was actually smoothing out his dancing. And and then about a week later, I was at a dance party, and he came up to me and gave me a big hug, and he just said like, oh my God, you don't know what you've done. Like, I can dance in front of 200, 300 people. This is amazing. And we're like, wow, I guess we're onto something. So to get back to Thailand, I would share this story, and there was a woman that came up to me from an international NGO called Plan International, and she says, have you ever done this with kids? And I'm like, no. It didn't even cross my mind. And so a couple Thai women and I decided to get some kids together in a park, and we decided to actually lead these leadership exercises, or these things that we usually did with grown adults, 20, 30 years old, with little kids from like 7 to 10 years old. And it was really interesting because they actually played around with it. They actually played around with these team building exercises, amongst kids. And we realized that it was able to kind of knit kids together from kind of like all different classes, from middle class to the lower class, because they all had the same language. They were not like it wasn't about their spoken communication. And what was really interesting is it stirred up so much energy, in these kids, that they were inspired to want to learn about computers. They wanted to learn English. They wanted to do art. collaging, whatever. And so we turned our apartment into like a little mini classroom. And these kids loved it so much that they asked for more. And I won't forget the time where like, are we going to do this again next week? And my partner at the time said, yeah, we'll meet here next week. And I said, what are you talking about? We don't have any more material. And she's like, oh, we'll figure it out. And that went on for 4 months. Every week. We actually, I think you said something about a love bomb. We actually rented out those little can trucks and it's turned this little school bus that like picked up all the kids and brought them to the park. It was really cute, and it all culminated into an event around Christmas where all the kids got up on stage and they did their thing. And I think my favorite moment was them inviting about 40 adults, including their parents, to get up on stage, and literally they asked them to jump around like cats and dogs. And because, you can imagine as a parent, you're just going to do anything your kid asks you to do. So they did it. And then one woman just kind of stands up and is like, oh my God, like this is unheard of. This is like, are we in Thailand? And I remember at that moment when it was like so foreign to this Thai woman that all this was happening in this ballroom, it was at a hotel, that we were really onto something. That we had really succeeded in sharing aspects of what we had created and invented and influenced by American culture in Thailand, and that it was really different for them. And so I guess that's kind of the moral of my story, is that I'm really inviting all of you, to really embrace your passion, bring it back to Thailand, let it all go, and just kind of, wait for that kind of brilliant moment where someone really realizes that what you've done is really unique, and that you've really made a difference for them, and that you've really inspired them, and come back to America like me and tell the story.